My name's Leanne Tobin, and I'm part of the Darug mob here, descended from the Burrabarong and the Wamali, which is belonging to kangaroo and also possum. A lot of my work is focused around telling stories of place, because a lot of the history from here, a lot of the stories are missing, and consequently I felt it's almost a responsibility I have as a Darug descendant. I have to tell these stories, and I use all my skills to do so. I've got to do it very carefully because it's shaky ground. You've got to be careful with what you say, how you approach it. You don't want to offend people, but at the same time you want to acknowledge. Our narrative is we've never ceded sovereignty. We've always been here. We've never gone away. We've got diaspora now with other Aboriginal people coming from other areas living on country. Our threads and stories are broken and disconnected, so we rely, and I actually encourage allies, people who are open to telling our story. I want those people to come and tell their observations, because, as I said, when I realised my own Aboriginal heritage, your view changes the world. You can't see the landscape the same anymore. It is a different place. And so working with Gary's beautiful work, which was a collaborative work with Bidwell High, we wanted to conduct ceremony. Ceremony was broken and shut down for Darug people for a very long time. But we are now in the process of renewal, of bringing ceremony back. And that takes place in lots of different ways, whether it's on country, whether it's in a building here, divided and separated from other people, not able to bring children in here to be actively involved in the work they created, but representing them. So it's made everyone think divergently and create memories, create ceremony that then are shared stories that form positive healing stories that adds another layer to what's already here. Not all of it's very nice. To highlight our histories, because you really can't reconcile until you've actually acknowledged what's happened. With Gary's piece, where he's used the children's backgrounds from different areas, they've come from different parts of the world, their families have history now in this place. So sharing that history is a big part of it. Just makes you view things through different lenses, and I think that's really important. But for me, that underlying landscape, that underlying country, regardless of what goes on top, the roads you lay down, the buildings you build, the shoes on our feet, that story is still there. It might be covered in concrete, it might be covered with bridges. Those rivers and creeks are still running through this place, and they still retain and hold those stories of country from the past. And so any artwork that brings that to light, highlights it, examines it, looks at it, gets other people, and that's where the ceremonial part comes into it, where people come together.
My name is Gary Carsley, and I am a Queen from Queensland, and I live and work on Gadigal country. The work is a series. It's called Sight, Sight, Sight. It's a play on words, but it deals with the idea that I'm quoting from sites of first contact between so-called great navigators and First Nations peoples. So they are Malacca, Cebu, and Botany Bay. So in each of these places there are commemorative parks, and this construction of a landscape as culture reminds us of an older construction of culture, which is country. So in that overlap between the paradigms landscape and country is a place for acknowledgement, because in the absence of acknowledgement there cannot be reconciliation. So this work endeavours not to represent acknowledgement, but in the mode of its practice, to acknowledge the people who contributed meaningfully to the production of the work. We need to understand that every image that we look at of contemporary Australian landscape is at the very least two things. It's an image of erasure, what we imagine was erasure, but I wanted to try to find a way in which it was possible to produce an image that, without a hierarchy, could be the stage for multiple voices to speak at once. So the image is realized, it has a philosophical proposition in which an identical image in positive and negative forms is, by switching between the positive and the negative, by moving backwards and forwards between these, it's possible not to image participation and to image inclusion and acknowledgement, but to enact it within the work. Because I think we have enough images of reconciliation. We need meaningful acts that acknowledge country. And so this A4 photocopy, it's a public work. It can be produced on any home printer, oscillates between these two forms of the image, the positive and the negative image, enabling the students to enact their identity within this in a clearly visible way, but still has the continuity of the image that underlays it, in which those participants who install the work are included and finish it officially by placing against the wall a series of spatializing elements that contain the continuity of the image behind it and heal that rupture caused by the foregrounding of the image as it touches the floor, as it reaches the present. So it acknowledges that Indigenous Australia always has been present, that we have chosen not to see that presence, or we've deliberately chosen to ignore it, is not a sustainable position if we want authentic, really meaningful reconciliation. It has to proceed from acknowledging that this always has been Indigenous land.